Welcome to a new video on the Photography Minimalist. Today I'm outdoors and I'm going to enter a very small and green oasis in the middle of a very busy industrial area. It's called Ruigoord. It's a very small creative village, so a lot of creative people live here now. It has quite a history. They have been fighting for many years to maintain this little village, you know, as an oasis in this industrial area, and they've got approval to maintain it. And I'm going to be photographing at a very basic entry level with my Pentax K1000 and a 40mm 2.8 pancake lens, and also a Nikon EM with a standard 50mm 1.8. I'm using a Kodak Portra 400 because it is cloudy and overcast, and also an Ilford HP5. So let's get going. Before we have a look at the results which I was able to achieve, I thought it would be a good idea to have a closer look at the K1000, specifically using it with the 40mm 2.8. There are a few things that I want to point out. First of all, when we look at the focusing ring on the 40mm, you see it is absolutely tiny. So the grip that you have available to focus this lens is very little. If I compare it, for example, to the standard 50mm 2.0, you can see a much broader grip which is on this lens, which gives more accurate focusing capabilities. That's something to take into account. That's number one. Number two is the fact that the K1000 is a fully manual camera, which means that you adjust the aperture and also adjust the shutter speed. Now, I like using cameras in an aperture priority mode. So when I set the aperture and I'm looking through the viewfinder to compose my photo, simultaneously I have to turn the shutter dial. And of course it has an internal metering system, so you need to position the meter of the metering system exactly in the middle to get a perfectly exposed photo. But it is a little bit awkward to look through the viewfinder and change the shutter speed. Why is this awkward? Well, first of all, there is no indicator at all when you're looking through your viewfinder telling you which aperture you're using at the moment and which shutter speed. So when you're using an aperture priority and you're only adjusting the shutter speed, you always need to take into account that you're going to be easily getting into slower shutter speeds of a 30th or 1/15th of a second. That's something you need to be aware of, because the camera does not warn you if you get into that slower shutter speed area. Those are the two aspects that I wanted to mention, and now it's time to have a look at the results. Well, that was interesting. I ended up only using my Pentax K1000 and the 40mm 2.8 pancake lens. The camera, in which I put a roll of Kodak Portra 400. I decided to stay with color, so I only shot a few pictures on my HP5 Plus using the Nikon EM. So I was much more enthusiastic about using the Pentax. I'm very curious because I haven't been using my Pentax K1000 for a long time, and I've never used it with the 40mm Pancake 2.8. I always use it with the 50mm 2.0 lens. So I'm very curious how the results are going to work out. This is, by the way, a location that I'm going to be back more often. The location is called Ruigoord. It's very famous in the Amsterdam area. And I met a few very interesting people, one of which I was able to photograph. And I'm going to be using his space also to do some model photography. So that was it for this episode. I hope you liked the results. And yeah, see you next time again. Bye-bye.